temporary ban on not everybody but many. I would set up a system to see who qualifies to come in, who doesn't. All I'm doing is bringing a situation to the forefront that everybody is talking about, and nobody wants to do anything about it. People have to be vetted. They have to be perfectly
You can vet
vetted.
them, but you can't insult the whole religion.
We're not insulting. This is about security. It's not about religion.
All right, joining us now, folks, Richard Perle, Senior Fellow at the American Enterprise Institute and former Assistant Secretary of Defense. Richard, welcome, sir. So, what's your take on Donald Trump's proposal?
Well, it's a very crude proposal, of course. It's certainly not a subtle way of dealing with a real problem, which is people coming into the United States who wish to do us harm, to say nothing of the people already here who become radicalized and wish to do us harm. The idea that the right way to deal with this is to exclude on the basis of religion, I think is really quite wrong, and it won't work. In fact, it seems to me quite likely that it will embitter some of the millions of Muslims who are already in the United States and create a greater likelihood that they will be turned and radicalized. And that, of course, is the greatest threat, since you can't stop at the borders a fellow resident or citizen.
All right, let me ask you about, let's go to the area and the fight against ISIS, or the non-fight against ISIS. Let me ask you about Turkey. Is Turkey our friend? I know they're in NATO, so I know technically what the answer is, according to treaties. But are they our friend here, or our enemy, our foe?
Well, they have certainly not been our friend in recent years, unfortunately. Since Tayyip Erdogan became the effective leader of the country, it doesn't matter which position he's in, and he's been both prime minister and president, he is not friendly. He is not well disposed toward us, and he's playing his own game with respect to ISIS. Now, something very interesting happened just a month ago, which is that the border security for the Republic of Turkey was in the hands of the Interior Minister, who's an Islamist. And it was in the hands of the Interior Minister because the European Union insisted that that border responsibility be taken away from the military as part of the Turkish qualification for membership in the European Union. And from the moment that happened, control of the borders was in the hands of a particularly undesirable bunch of people. It's now been given back to the army, which is where it was before this happened. And that is why you now see efforts to close the border and stop the movement. Most of the terrorists traveling to Syria have been going through Turkey.
Right.
And they were able to do that when you had an Islamist running the border police, 40,000 of them. Now it's back in the hands of the army, and there is a chance, because the army sees this quite differently, that they will actually impede the flow of terrorists across the Turkish border.
So you believe that the oil smuggling, the people smuggling, the weapons smuggling, crossing the border, as Obama referenced briefly in his statement the other night, Sunday night, you believe that is turning around and will eventually stop?
I hope it will. I know that with the army responsible, there is a much better chance than with a corrupt group of politicians who were benefiting from this in various ways.
All right, let me ask you about what former CIA Director Mike Morrell said, that Obama wouldn't bomb the oil fields because of environmental concerns. He wouldn't hit the oil tankers for the same reason, or infrastructure concerns. Is that, well, I don't want to put a word out there. You tell me what that is.
It's mind-boggling. Obama hasn't a clue, and this is just another indication of that. To believe that the way to protect the environment is to allow a terrorist organization to flourish.
I couldn't agree with you more. What about the threat of a nuke? I mean, does ISIS have that capability? And what do you make of also Putin's words that he hopes he doesn't have to use nukes against ISIS?
Well, I think it's bluster. I think crossing the line to the use of nuclear weapons is not going to be done lightly by any state authority. whether ISIS is trying very hard to acquire weapons of mass destruction. And I've no doubt that if they get them, they will use them. So if you're worried about massive environmental damage, think about the prospects of a nuclear explosion perpetrated by ISIS.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Unfortunately, our president, I don't think, is capable of doing that. Listen, sir, have a very wonderful holiday, and thanks for all you do for us. We'll speak to you soon.
Sure. All the best to you.
You too. Richard Perle, ladies and gentlemen, here on the Steve Malzberg Show. Very interesting conversation. A lot in there in a short amount of time. Up next, the Malzberg panel. We'll talk about everything. Don't go away.